And when you look at the statistics and the studies that are being done in all the schools, all of them are engaging in one form or another of this kind of risky behavior, whether it's drugs or alcohol or sexting or cyberbullying. Everyone knows somebody who's either been the victim of it or perpetrated it. So it's not a problem that's unique to Chatsworth Unionville, but it's also a problem that is not absent here. So as parents, you know, myself included, it is our obligation to have those uncomfortable conversations with our children. You know, there's a culture of wanting to be your child's friend, but at the same time, you have to be your child's parent. And that's one of the things that we try to talk about in all of these classes, is that it is unpopular and it's incredibly uncomfortable sometimes. And I hate doing it. But my children know that when I go home and say, hand me your phone and put in your code, I'm going to go through their phone. I'm going to go through their text messages. I'm going to go through their web history, because that's the only way I can know that they're not engaging in these risky behaviors or partaking in these risky behaviors. Now, believe me, your children know great ways to hide things on their phones. There are lots of apps out there. There's lots of technology out there. So it's very difficult, but as a parent, you have an obligation to try to keep up with that technology so that you can do your best to help educate yourself, help educate your children, and to help protect your children. So those are in broad brushstrokes, those are the things that we're kind of focused on when we talk about safety within the schools. In kind of the big picture, when particular problems crop up at a particular school, whether it's alcohol related or drunk driving or texting and distracted driving, we also address those issues as well. But from what we're seeing, the schools are doing a great job in addressing those at an early level with the children and with the middle schoolers and then ultimately the high schoolers. But as those things come up, we still will engage in those things. The one thing I will say, and this isn't a plug for Dr. Sandoval, I don't think he knows I'm going to say this, I deal with most of the school districts in the county at varying levels when they have problems. One of the things that, as a parent, that I'm very happy about is that I have a very open line of communication, not just with Dr. Sandoval, but also with the principals. And Unionville has, in the past at least, had a reputation of trying to hide its problems. And I don't feel that that is the culture or the case in the school district. At least not with what I've seen since I've been with the district attorney's office. Every time that we've had a problem crop up in the school, he's been very quick. Dr. Sandoval, the principal's been very quick to contact the district attorney's office, to contact law enforcement, to work with us to reach a good resolution, and to do it in such a way that informs the parents quickly and correctly and appropriately so as not to create further problems or miscommunications. So with that, I would like to give him the proper due, because a lot of school districts still have that gut instinct of protecting the school's image by saying, well, we don't have that problem. Every school has every problem. There's enough kids and enough unique individuals. Every problem that you see in the papers across society, this is just a microcosm of what the rest of the country's like. So if it's a problem somewhere else, you can guarantee it's a problem here. And the fact that we have teachers and the fact that we have administrators and staff that are willing to admit that and to address it, I think goes a long way in earning at least my trust when I put my kids on the bus every day, and I hope it does yours too. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Chuck, and I did not pay him to say that. I do appreciate it, but it's...
I'm just happy to give you a black eye and knock out one of my teeth.
Yeah, no, none of that. That's, I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you coming out. And this is a talented community. This is a place where people pitch in, and I thank Chuck for coming out as not just as a member of the DA's office, but as one of us. And it's and it really doesn't do any good, as Chuck alluded to you know, sweeping things under the rug or ignoring things or pretending that things aren't issues. If we have an issue, we tackle it head on, and that's really the only way to do it, to make a difference. You know, and we really all come together here, I think, with a very simple purpose, and that, at least from the school side, it's to provide a forum and an opportunity for all of you to give us information, to share your perspectives, to let us understand the understandings, let us understand where you are at in terms of safety. Because, and I said this at the board meeting the other night, particularly the incident at Patton Middle School and the incident here at the high school, I received over 100 emails. People are passionate about safety, and safety of our students, and safety of our staff, and safety of all the people that come into our buildings, thousands of people that come into our buildings every day. People feel very strongly, gratefully so. But you know what? We don't always all agree as to what that means. And I want to really get an insight as we move on later on into breakout groups, into smaller groups, and really get your feelings as to what that means. Because that helps us from an administrative side understand really the mores and the values of the community around this. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Let's just take a moment to look back in time. After Sandy Hook, and I'm sure all of us can remember the feelings that we all had after Sandy Hook. I mean, it was a horrific tragedy that really struck all of us right here. And it was impossible to go into a school and look at children the same way, and to think about what happened at Sandy Hook without thinking about our own kids. And as an administrative team, we did a number of things, and parents did a number of things, and you know, we all struggled to make sense that was possible, but also how we make sure that the same kind of tragedy doesn't happen here in Unionville Chadsport. So from a district perspective, we looked at our 6 buildings. We had experts come in through the Pennsylvania Safe Schools Initiative. People from Harrisburg came and did assessments of all 6 of our buildings. And really they told us where there are areas of need, areas that we can improve in, areas which we were strong. Internally, administrative teams and teachers, we talked about, you know, what made sense, what didn't make sense, what are we doing, what shouldn't we be doing, what needs to be done in order to make sure that all 4,100 students who come to us every day are safe. And not to mention the 650 staff members that come to school every day. The community conversation was well attended. In this space right here, a crowd similar to what we have here right now came out and really provided some great input, some great insights. We tapped into some expertise in our community. We have one of our parents who, at the time, was an FBI agent, was stationed at Philadelphia International Airport as a counterterrorism expert. He had access and had done similar to Mr. Gaza, had been to Sandy Hook. And he made a presentation to our administrative team so we could learn as an administrative team what happened at Sandy Hook. And all that information that we took that came from the community, that came from experts, that came from our own discerning eye, resulted in an action plan. Now, something on the first slide, and maybe it's on your agenda as well. We talk about this being a community conversation about keeping our students safe. But really, I'd like to, and you think about what Chuck Gaza just shared with us, and you think about the things that are happening, some of the incidents I'm going to talk about in a moment. We're really talking about changing the paradigm from buildings and infrastructure to hearts and minds. So what do I mean by that? When you look at the 31-point action plan, it was really wrapped in large degree around building and infrastructure, about perimeter control, about some trainings and emergency drills. Quite frankly, there have been in September and October 53 different emergency drills that we have done with our kids this year. 53. Those aren't just fire drills. There are fire drills, there are lockdowns, there are all different manner of emergency preparedness that we go through. In January, Chuck Gaza talked about the reunification trainings going on in districts across the county. In January, our administrative team is being trained on the reunification process. It is something it's become part of our culture from an administrative side that really trickles down to what's happening in our classrooms. But quite frankly, that is all good and it's all important, and it has become interwoven into the fabric of what is our regular school business. It's a shame that that's the case, but it's the case. It's life after Columbine, it's life after Sandy Hook, and it's life after a litany of other horrible events. But there are other things that are happening that give me concern. Quite frankly, the things that keep me up at night when I worry about our kids. When we're worried about their risky behaviors, and we're worried about the risks of everyday life that really come down the pike that I think that we can do something about. So when you go off into breakout groups, we're going to talk about some of maybe the traditional things that you think of in terms of active shooters and weapons and those kinds of things. But I also want us to start thinking about our kids as people and how we're going to keep them safe. We have a wellness committee. How do we keep our students well and prepare them to be successful in life after Unionville-Chadds Ford? And I'm just going to take a moment to share this with you, just so you get a sense of some of the things that we did in terms of from an infrastructure standpoint. And I'll just point just one thing out, and then I'm going to show you a video. That quite frankly, the plan that that the board approved was never made public, and it was never made public on purpose. There was a real feeling that why would we tell everyone all the things that we are doing? There's really, it doesn't make sense to tell the bad guys what our plan is. But I will just share just a couple of things that we did that came out of our security assessments. And you'll notice this now in every one of our buildings. You see, I think you can see in the corner, number 43 in the corner. And then there's going to be a number on that outside door there. Every one of our outside doors and every one of our buildings is numbered inside and numbered outside. It's a larger number to see from the outside. And that's so law enforcement can know. Police officer comes in here and says, I'm at door 43. And the law enforcement on the outside can look and see, okay, there's door 43. That's been done district-wide. When you come into the buildings now, you have to give ID, you give your license, and we run you through the Raptor system. You get a badge with your picture on it, where you're headed. That was all part of, that came out of security assessments and self-evaluation and was part of that action plan. We have also, in all of our buildings, installed a 3M safety film. And it wasn't a recommendation, but as we did research and talked to experts, it was something that came to us that this would be a good thing for us to do. And if you're not aware, I'm going to have Ryan just show you this video. It's pretty amazing. So you think about that from the glass isn't bulletproof, but it's something that you do. It's a minute and a half. It's a minute and a half for our kids to go through the lockdown procedures that we practice routinely. It's a minute and a half for police to get here. It's a minute and a half for us to be prepared for the unthinkable. And hopefully we never live through the instance where that film needs to be used, but we have it, and we've done it, and we've done a lot of things similar to that. And I'm not going to share them all as I stated earlier, but I think it's important for you to know that the administrative team, the teachers, the staff in the district are doing everything they can to make sure that when you send us your kids, that we're doing everything we can to keep them safe. Ryan, the next slide, please. Let me talk about a couple of things that have happened recently, and kind of the background to them, and I'll give you, and I'm looking at the time, I'll give you the thumbnail version of events, but gives some background and some guidance for all of us for the discussion groups we're going to go to shortly. In September at Patton Middle School, we had a parent with a gun. That's really the short and simple statement. And it was, I sent out some correspondence on this. I think I had an auto dialer to you all. There was a press release from the district attorney's office. But The short story to it is this. A parent came to pick up their child at the middle school. It was a hot day. They left the car running with the air conditioning on. They thought they had locked the door. They did not. There was a gun in the door. It wasn't visible. It was in the door, but the door was unlocked, and the car was running, and the gun was loaded. Our security officer, one of our security folks from the high school, was over at the middle school. Luckily enough, he was actually over there trying to find high school students who had parked there illegally. And in that process, he sees a running car. That's odd. Opens the door to check to see what's going on, to see, what's happening. And he opens the door, he sees the gun. Closes the door. We contact police, and the rest is history, so to speak. The good news to that is the proactive nature of security. It was also a little bit lucky, because under normal circumstances he's not going to be at the middle school, but he was. And it really, I'll highlight the importance of all of us being aware and all of us being vigilant to things that look unusual. Because it's not necessarily the 650 support staff or the 300 teachers that are going to catch these things. A lot of times it's everybody else in the room that catches these things. And I'm going to talk about this next incident, and it really highlights that very point. At Unionville High School, there was an email that went out, actually a notification for parents who are high school parents. It came from Jimmy Conley, notifying you that we had students who had been suspended from school for drinking on the bus. Now, and this is something that is an opportunity for us to talk to our children about their actions, to talk to children about how that happened. But it was a bad decision by some children drinking on the bus. There were consequences for those actions. But the silver lining that came out of it is that administration discovered this when students came and reported what happened. Again, it's when there is what I'll call dangerous activity or threats to what I'll call the system, threats to the school, threats to individual students, it's often students and parents and community members that know about it first. And the willingness and openness to share that information with us so we can share it with law enforcement, so things things are handled in a timely manner and in a way that avoids escalation. The third incident was a student with a knife in his car at the high school. So we regularly have a dog that comes through. We have a company that we work with that does sweeps of the buildings, sweeps of the parking lots. The dog alerts to a number of things. Alerts to drugs, alerts to alcohol, alerts to gunpowder, alerts to some other kind of bomb-related materials. The dog went to a car, alerted to gunpowder. And the way he alerts, it's a different type of alert depending on what the substance is. So immediately we're in a situation where we have a car, dog is alerted to gunpowder. It could be something, it could be nothing. It could be that it was a student who bought a used car and it was the person who owned it before was a hunter. We get false alerts all the time. But it does start a series of events, and so we talk to a student and we find out that, no, I was hunting over the weekend, but I do have a hunting knife on the back seat. And sure enough, there's a hunting knife 3-inch blade on the back seat. I can tell you that when that happens, and it happened in the Patton Middle School incident, and it happened in this incident, we have a memorandum of understanding with all the police forces in our 7 townships. So that means we have a memorandum of understanding with Birmingham Township Police, we have a memorandum of understanding with East Marlboro Township Police, and a memorandum of understanding with the Pennsylvania State Police. And in that memorandum of understanding, there are things that we say we will do. And there are things that the police say we will do. So there's police promise to do something, we promise to do something. One of the things that we are required to do is to notify police when there is a weapon on school property. Well, certainly a gun is a weapon, and so is a knife. Not a knife with a 12-inch blade, a knife with a half-inch blade. The way that the Crimes Code reads is knife. A knife is a weapon. So we notified the police not to press charges. And in fact, in this incident, in fact, I contacted the district attorney's office. We had conversations with the state police. We did not recommend pressing charges. In fact, just the opposite. We didn't think charges were warranted. There's a lot has been bantied about a zero tolerance policy that we have. We don't, and I know kind of the press runs with things, and I'm sorry for the press who are here. We don't have a zero tolerance policy. If you look at our policy, having a weapon on school grounds, and a knife is a weapon by definition, that's expulsion. That's what it says in the policy. But within the policy, it also says that the superintendent and administration has grounds to consider the context, which in fact in this situation is what we did. Because we didn't feel it right that a student who'd been cooperative, who had no intent, be expelled. Not everyone will agree where we drew the line, but we drew a line. And I'm going to ask for your input as to what is the appropriate place to draw the line. That's going to be part of your input and your feedback for us. But that is the way that played out for us. And it's not an easy place to be administratively, from the school board's perspective, from teachers' perspectives. When you're talking about a student who makes a mistake. But there are things that, in terms of the safety of all 4,100 students, that we really have to do. But there's got to be a line. And whenever you draw a line, there's going to be folks on either side. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the feedback is related to that particular incident, and that's one of the questions in the breakout groups. And now finally, Chester County sexting and bullying. Chuck talked about another district that's going through this in a very public manner. It's in the papers. But I guarantee you that it is happening in every school, every district in Chester County. I guarantee it. If you go back 7, 8 years ago, we had a similar kind of situation here with student sexting. It was very public, and the news crews are here and all that kind of stuff because it makes good news. And it is and quite frankly, there are things that we have done from a curriculum side, from what we call the cyber footprint for every child. And Chuck Gaza talked about, you send an email, you post something online, it's there forever. Yeah, it most certainly is. And it is, and I'll just tell you a story wrapped around this that kids don't realize, at least I don't think they fully realize. This is a number of years ago, in fact, prior to me being superintendent of my predecessor, there was a day that we had school, and it was a snowy day. And kids were upset that we had school. So there was a Facebook page started, superintendent needs to give us a break. And that's fine, that's fine. And then there's some comments, and that's fine too. And then there was some really, really horrible, awful comments. Comments made by a young man that no mother would have liked to have seen what he wrote. And so, but this all happened outside of school, so what we did was, we brought in his parents, we brought him in, and we Googled his name. And the post came up, it was the very #1 post under his name. And so that's going to be there for quite some time. Once that's there, it's going to live with you for forever. And we try to, in terms of curriculum, in terms of the way we work with kids, to help them understand that. But it's also important for parents to understand that. And it's an ongoing process as to what that means and how you address that. And it's a little bit unnerving, because it's for the older folks in the room, the cyber world is a new place, and it's not something that we're used to. And we can handle what I'll call the brick and mortar world, but sometimes the cyber world is a little daunting. But it's the world that our kids live in, and it's the world that they're going to live in. And I want to make sure that we keep them as safe as possible as we send them off into life after the usual Chad sport. All right, in a moment we're going to go to breakout groups. This is going to be an opportunity for you to provide feedback in an informal and risk-free environment. There'll be administrators facilitating each of the groups. We are going to take notes in each of these areas. There's 7 questions I want you to answer. Then what we will do is we will have a gallery walk so we can look to see what groups talked about. One of the questions is going to be a prioritization question, and we will have what I call dotology. Those of you who have been at other community conversations or curriculum council meetings will know what that means. Each of you will receive 3 dots, and you will have an opportunity to look at the areas that we see, all of us, we see as important, and we can, in an unscientific and in an informal way, rank what's most important to us. Once that's done, we'll have a brief comeback together, and we will be done. We're coming up on 7 o'clock. I promise we will finish at 8, because I promise you, start at 6, end at 8. I want to be mindful of your time.